Thank you for staying with Sunrise. Born and raised in St. Thomas, my guest, with no formal mentoring in songwriting, wrote his first song at the age of 14 years, titled A Song I Used to Sing. He stumbled upon poetry and he developed a deep affinity for the arts, and ever since, he, being an all-rounded creative, has been his way of life. We welcome Sean C. Harrison to share more. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
I'm very happy to have you. Poetry gets me very, very excited. I was just talking to Yasa Safari for Poetry in Motion, and it was just so good to talk to a poet, to talk to a writer. Persons don't, if you could explain, and you're a poet, but if you could explain how important poetry is for the human soul, what would you say?
Well, you know, firstly, as someone who is affected by mental illness, you know, has been since age 19, any form of creative expression would, for me, have proven very cathartic and therapeutic. And so there are things in the human soul that only certain things can bring out. And I had a whole lot bottled up in me through the years, and it was, you know, more than, you know, beneficial to me to have been able to write and to, you know, speak of my journey through my writing, you know. And so I believe in for whole societies, you know, who, you know, need a way to chronicle their history, you know, sometimes poetry is a very good way of doing that.
Yes, yes.
You know, so, I mean, I've got to say, since I personally stumbled upon poetry, it has been quite a beautiful way for me to show the world, my world, and also to interpret my world and to document the things that are important to the human condition.
Oh, I love that, Mr. Harrison. You know why? Because the societies that we consider to be very well established or developed or first world societies have taken great pains to chronicle their story.
Yes.
And the governments and the institutions applaud and make space for their singers and their poets. And let's just, I mean, you talk about a nation like Greece, you talk about France,
Yes.
you talk about the UK, the United Kingdom, places like Dublin in Ireland, that they chronicle the development of their civilization, and the poet and the singer, the bard,
Yes.
has this place in the society that has served them well, so that the people have a strong sense of nationhood.
Yes.
I don't know if Jamaica as a society understands the value of that kind of creative, poetic expression in securing national identity. Yes. What do you think?
Well, I do think Jamaica, you know, is doing well as it concerns the number of poets that I have been exposed to through the years. You know, vanguard persons like Professor Mervyn Morris, Lorna Goodison, you know, and then even more contemporary personalities like Miss Yashika Graham, as well as, well, others. I believe still, you know, even though we as Jamaicans do not usually like to delve into our inner selves, I think we still are trying our best to chronicle our journeys through time. And Jamaica, as you know, is filled with so many bright, creative minds. I think we are doing much better than you might say.
I do not doubt that we are overflowing with creative minds and with poets and singers and authors who've taken the time to dedicate themselves to their craft the way you have. My concern, and maybe my concern is ill-founded, you can tell me, my concern is that the institutions that should provide spaces for these persons to be more affirmed in the society because of the value they hold for nationhood and a sense of national consciousness, that while they exist in abundance and have dedicated themselves, that the space to become a part of what is understood as extremely valuable for national consciousness isn't as available as it is in other countries.
Well, you do have a point there, you know, because even as it concerns my having won the JCDC's creative writing contest twice, you know, after having won, it didn't go very far. You know, they didn't go very far with me, you know, subsequent to that. So you do have a point. Persons have through the years had to really struggle to have their voice heard and to have gained notoriety, you know, because of their art and their craft. So yes, you do have a point, and there is more that needs to be done, because even when I started doing poetry, I was not exposed, you know, to any other poets that were around or any other societies that would have facilitated, you know, and affirmed our work. So you do have a point. But I think slowly we are coming into our own.
I think
so. You know, I would just say to us all, let's have a little faith as the process unfolds, you know, for us to actually catch on to what other societies are doing. And please remember that Mother Africa, you mentioned Ireland, but please remember that Mother Africa has done very well in chronicling its, you know, her history and her stories through, you know, creative expressions too.
You're right.
Yes.
I'm going to go to Africa. I'm going to come to your works that are here.
Yes.
But you mentioned the JCDC, and it would be remiss of us to not speak of how important that institution has been in the discovery of talent. We're really looking forward to, as you say, for the process to evolve so that we can have a space now for the upliftment and the teaching of the talent discovered by that a fantastic organization. We're going to come to Africa. In fact, we've arrived there. I want to ask you about any kind of African influence, because you are right. I remember when I discovered the poetry of Woye Soyinka, and I said to myself, oh my God, first of all, why am I discovering this in my adulthood? You know, and so you are right. It is not to say it isn't there. It's just that for so many of us who are brought up in a post-colonial educational system, we in the past were not introduced as early as we could to the writings of the African continent. But you are right that they have developed extraordinary systems of recording and chronicling that is available to the world, and it is for us to embrace it.
Yes.
Tell me about your influences in your work. We mentioned Africa, and obviously there are others, but when you think about putting a collection together, or in the past, what has been some of your major influences?
Well, the truth is that, I mean, most of my writings have been done, you know, coming out of my own emotional, psychological outflow. And so, being someone who had been forced by mental illness and other severe stresses throughout life, I would have had to draw on what was inside. And so I got to say that life itself inspires me.
Yes.
You know, you speak about the battered wife, you speak about the child who needs to be, you know, affirmed. You speak about even Jamaican national life, you know, and very important to my own creative expression is my spiritual base. Having, you know, recommitted my life to the Lord since age 16, and that, you know, the reading of the Bible and the stories as well as the counsels that it would have put forward, and, you know, and all the things that it taught me, you know, would have influenced me so deeply that the undertones of spirituality are very clear in my writings. And as you can see here, there are actually two collections of poetry dedicated, or coming out of my Christian experience, which is a deeper joy and 3 steps away from faith.
Right.
And I actually started out, there have been no particular individual influences as it concerns Mother Africa, but certainly having grown up in Jamaica and having been exposed through, television and radio to our roots, having watched the Civil Rights Chronicles, having watched the movies that would, be so well-worn and, repeated year after year, Black History Month, listening to our music, of course, the music of the Rastafarians, and other persons, all of those things would have come together to birth in me.
Yes.
Yes, my own voice, creative voice, yes.
I like this one that says goodbye Africa though.
Yes.
We told ourselves tales of old, whispered farewells to our home. Goodbye Africa where men were free. We wondered what here would we be. We never dreamed how hotly hate would sting. When where we were birthed, we were queens and kings. No more Africa but Jamaica to work the soil, to drench our days in bleeding, crueling toil. Backs welted by the slave master's whip. Goodbye, Africa. May one day our children, when free, the land of their birth come to see. Until then, our stories must suffice. Until then, what a price we've paid. What a price. Then Sister Sean is a proper nice. Is that a sonnet? Is that a sonnet?
No, it's not.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, this is nice, and this is a poem there from the collection, The Black in Me. And so, while Sean says that his influences, as a Jamaican, we are influenced by the African continent, but that your influences are wide. Yes, it is your indeed. Life. Beautiful poem there. Another one, The Case for Peace. Really nice. What is your most recent publication? Is it this one?
That is the
Sketches
most
of Sunrise is Sean Harrison's most recent publication. Beautiful hardcover here, telling us it's works of life to strengthen and renew faith.
Yes.
Tell me about the inspiration here. Okay. What, your faith was challenged?
Oh, yes, severely challenged. I mean, for anyone who would have been diagnosed with the most severe form of mental illness, which is paranoid schizophrenia. I had to keep on making references to that because that is such a significant part of my journey. Having been diagnosed at age 19 and now being 46 years old, which would have, made it 26 years to date.
Yes.
That I've, as I said, I would have had to dig deep within for the faith to carry on, and the words of these words that would have come to me out of having started writing on social media. Yes. Facebook in particular would have found their place in this little book. Truth be told, is that it was not difficult for me to actually pour out of my reserves. Yes. Because I have really been so seasoned in the school of life itself. Having interacted widely too, with my friends and associates all over Jamaica, having gone to the Enderman College of the Visual and Performing Arts also, where I had begun performance course, but would have dropped out because of the illness. Right. But I have to tell you that, as I said, the most significant influence upon my outflow is actually the fact that I would have, because of mental illness, more or less run the whole gamut of human emotion and feeling. And so it did make it hard for me to tap into also the experiences of others and chronicling those experiences. There's one poem I wrote that is entitled, "It's Just One of Them Things," that
Right.
speaks about a battered wife, an abused woman.
Several areas to
Yes,
draw from.
and yes, indeed, there is a women's collection there.
Thank you.
Yes,
We-
as well as a children's
And we can
collection.
find you at Sean C. Harrison on Instagram, on social media?
Yes, most of what I have on the internet can be
Yes.
found under my name.
All
I make
right.
sure that my name is always
Excellent.
Sean C. Harrison.
Sean
you just
C. Harrison.
Put in Sean C. Harrison. And
Multi-talented author, poet, and singer. He joined us this morning. We're just out of time to hear all about his amazing works, but stay with us. We're back after these messages.